Thank you, Ms. Kudosi. The chair recognizes himself for a period of questioning. I'll start with Mr. Hoekstra. According to your testimony, jihadists have murdered at an alarming rate. These murders have skyrocketed since 2009, as you said, with nearly 30,000 killed last year. What do you see as the causes of this dramatic increase? And maybe I was going to save this question to after you answered that one, but maybe this question will help inform the answer to the next one. So you're already familiar with PSD 11, which, as a matter of fact, you made me aware of it. With that, does that affect domestic policy, which then potentially affects the increase in these killings? And how would you characterize that, if there is one, effect on the policy here at home and abroad? And what signs, if there are any, that we can see that indicate the effect of that? For instance, what many of us in Congress and around the country feel is an unwillingness by the administration to identify the enemy. Is that enrobed potentially in that policy? Are we too close to it, and is the administration wedded to that policy so closely that now, for sake of embarrassment or for the considerations of the dramatic failures in North Africa and the Middle East, that they just don't want to talk about it, and so we can't say radical Islam or Islamists or those type of things? And I would be interested in hearing your thoughts.
All right, let me address this. The second part of your question first is, what has been the impact of implementing a policy directive like PSD 11 domestically? The impact domestically is that there are numerous examples which we've identified at the Investigative Project on Terrorism. I actually have a book coming out next month because the evidence is so extensive, so deep, and so broad about the different types of people that have now been coming into the United States under visas to visit. The meetings that have been going on with these individuals and policymakers at state and at the White House is frightening. There's example after example after example of individuals who have embraced Hamas, who have embraced suicide bombers, issued fatwas against and the death penalty against members of the LGBT community, who in prior administrations would never have been granted access into the United States. They would never have gotten a visa. The State Department and Homeland Security would have taken a look at their background, their public statements, and their actions and said, no, they're not getting into the United States. This administration has not only welcomed them into the United States, has welcomed them into the policy arms of the U.S. federal government. So that is how it's domestically expanded domestically. These individuals then frequently will travel around the United States speaking at a number of the organizations that Zuhdi has identified, and they will also participate in fundraising and espousing the same messages of hate that they have given overseas and doing the same thing here in the United States. Internationally, as I said, yes, it is absolutely important to identify the enemy, and we have. All right, what has happened with the Obama administration is that they have narrowed the definition of who the enemy is by embracing with individuals that the Clinton administration, the Bush administration always would have identified as being part of the problem and and identifying them as the enemy. The biggest example is the Muslim Brotherhood. Under PSD 11, and this is why I think it's absolutely critical that you get the information of who was vetted, how they were vetted, and who we actually started to engage with. But engaging with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and in Libya, two countries that were strong allies in fighting radical jihadists. Okay? We facilitated or actively participated in their overthrow. And we almost lost Egypt. All right? But thankfully, the forces that be in the country came back, and we stopped the Muslim Brotherhood regime in Egypt after 1 year. We did lose Libya. And so why do you see this escalation in the number of people who are victims? Because we lost Northern Africa. The weapons caches. We lost intelligence. I mean, I was chairman of the Intelligence Committee. We met with Gaddafi and his intelligence individuals. They were providing us with insights into the threat from radical jihadism, not only in Libya, but throughout Northern Africa and parts of the Middle East. Gaddafi was good at gathering intelligence of these bad folks because they threatened his regime. After 2004, he shared that information with us extensively and cooperated with us. After 2011, that all went dark. In Egypt, cooperation with their intelligence has gone largely dark after 2011 because they no longer believe that they can trust us. In Iraq, we have gone dark. So in a lot of these different areas where we used to get valuable intelligence, great participation, insights into the threat, those countries have now become failed states, and they are havens for preparing, planning, and executing attacks against the United States.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen. My time has expired. Since there's only 2 of us left, if you don't mind, we'll probably go a couple rounds so I can, because I have some more questions. But at this time, I yield to the gentlelady.